We are nearly 5 years into this generation, and what you'll notice about 2018 on the PlayStation 4 is that the games are really starting to hit their technical stride on the PlayStation 4. Maybe this is due to the fact of the PlayStation 4 Pro being more utilized, or it's just developers getting better at optimizing the hardware. What you'll notice is that these games from a visual standpoint are looking better than ever, and that's what we want to highlight in this video. Specifically, we want to take a look at the 10 best graphics in video games of 2018 thus far. Now, I am recording this video on October 3rd, 2018. There are a couple games coming out for the rest of the year that can definitely make it on this list, and we'll revise this list at the end of the year. Some of those games include Red Dead Redemption 2, maybe Fallout 76, although it seems like everyone is hating on that game just on the basis of the visuals alone, so we'll let you come up with that decision when it is released. But for now, let's take a look at the 10 best PS4 graphics in video games of 2018 so far. Now, first of all, let's just start off with the obvious, and that is God of War. Of course, when you take a look at the PlayStation 4 lineup, you have to give a little bit of preferential treatment to the exclusives, and Sony Santa Monica really showed that the PlayStation 4 hardware is capable of some incredible feats. Whether you play this game on the standard PlayStation 4 or the PlayStation 4 Pro, ideally you'll be playing on the Pro, but it looks fantastic either way. Now, I know some people will point to the fact that God of War does have some smoke and mirrors, but it's not anything you'll notice. This game is incredibly immersive, and when you're actually playing the game, it's hard not to be captivated by the visuals. Of course, the rest of the game is incredible as well, but from a visual standpoint, this is one of the best looking PS4 games thus far. You can make an argument it's either this game or our next game.
I also just love these quiet moments though with Atreus, that as you're moving through the world, he's constantly, commenting it with fresh eyes.
And next up, the other PlayStation 4 exclusive that's definitely a visual pleaser is Marvel Spider-Man. Now, I would say that when you compare God of War and Marvel Spider-Man directly, I would probably say that God of War is the better looking game, but at the same time, you have to give Marvel Spider-Man some credit because it is a gigantic open world game, and the fact that Insomniac was able to pull off these visuals in that type of setting, I have to give them a couple points for that. Regardless, Marvel Spider-Man is an incredible looking game. Some of the particle effects, and I have to say that when you're web slinging and you have all of these various buildings, you don't have to put a lot of attention to all of the various architecture, but Insomniac definitely did, and it adds another lifelike element to the game. And then you take a look at all of the NPCs, they're well designed, and everything top to bottom in Marvel Spider-Man is crafted with incredible detail.
Into the hero he wants to be. And from what I've seen, the people seem to be a-okay with that.
Agree to disagree, Patterson. Spider-Man only cares about one thing.
Since we're on the topic of PlayStation 4 exclusives, let's just talk about all of those. First, Detroit Become Human is another game that looks visually fantastic. Now, I do have to take a couple of points away from Detroit compared to God of War and Marvel Spider-Man because this is a game where Quantic Dreams really relied on the presentation of the game. Quantic Dreams has always delivered story-driven experiences that are a bit light on the gameplay, so you would expect that the visuals and technical achievements of the game are a little bit more of an emphasis as opposed to God of War and Marvel Spider-Man. But still, Detroit Become Human is an awesome looking game with insane animation effects, and the realism to the game is really next level.
We're not a deviant.
They are not machines!
I could take you there.
Go! See that?
Next up, and this one's kind of funny because back in the PS2 days, this was considered to be the best looking game then, and it still holds up today, and that is Shadow of the Colossus. Now, of course, the Shadow of the Colossus that was released in 2018 was remade from the ground up by Blue Point Games, and they did a tremendous job with the game. Now, Shadow of the Colossus back on the PS2 was always heralded for its technical achievements on the visual side of things, but it always did falter from a frame rate perspective. Of course, now being on the PlayStation 4, it still retains that size and scale, but the performance is so much better, so couple the incredible visuals with the rock-solid performance. On the PS4 Pro, this game looks awesome, and it's still as good of a game as you remember it on the PS2. And if you've never played Shadow of the Colossus, if it's completely foreign to you, definitely give it a look, and the visuals will stand out. Okay, so those were the exclusives. Now let's move on to some of the multi-platform titles, and first up I want to give a shout to Monster Hunter World. Now, Monster Hunter is a long-running franchise, however, it's not a franchise that has always been known for its visual fidelity, namely because it was relegated to a lot of secondary platforms, handhelds. There have been many Monster Hunter games on the 3DS, PSP, Nintendo Wii, Wii U. Monster Hunter World was really the first Monster Hunter game that was built for the premier consoles and platforms available in the PlayStation 4, and it was also released on Xbox One and PC. With that, the handcuffs really came off and you saw Monster Hunter make that technical transition into the brilliance you knew it could be, and still from a fundamental Monster Hunter standpoint, it retained everything that you knew and loved. Even though it is a little bit more simplistic than a traditional Monster Hunter experience, it still has an incredible amount of depth to it from a gameplay and visual standpoint. Next up, I do want to give a mention to Kingdom Come Deliverance. Now, Warhorse Studios did a really good job with this game, and KCD was a game that you more so associated with a PC experience. However, it was released on the PlayStation 4, and I do have to take a couple of points away from it because, yes, while it does look great from a visual standpoint, it does have some technical problems and hiccups that do hold it back just a little bit. A lot of that has been remedied since the launch of the game through updates, so it's a better experience now, albeit not perfect, but when you just judge it based on the visuals that are there, incredible open world RPG with some very realistic visuals really does the setting of the game justice, and it would be foolish not to give Kingdom Come Deliverance a mention for its graphical achievements.
Come on, get into the thick of it. Let's see some bloodshed. That's it.
Next up is a game that I don't think a lot of people are giving credit to its visual excellence, maybe because it's already been expected with this franchise, and that is Far Cry 5. Now, was Far Cry 5 a gigantic leap visually over Far Cry 4? Not necessarily, however, Far Cry 4 was an amazing looking game, and just a little bit of improvements that Far Cry 5 is making makes it all the better. Far Cry is one of those games that has been known for its visual excellence, so it didn't have the surprise factor that, say, a God of War had. God of War historically has looked good, but the 2018 God of War game was just on another level. With Far Cry, you kind of expect the visuals to be at a certain level, so you didn't have that surprise factor, but I still wanted to give it the mention that it deserved.
He may have commanded explosive-toting primates in Far Cry 3 and fought with the Golden Path in Far Cry 4, but his dad still thinks he's an idiot.
You're dumber than a box of shit.
That's okay. Not only do we love...
Next up, let's go from one Ubisoft IP to the next. I gotta give a mention to Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Now, this game actually isn't officially released. As of recording this video, it officially releases in 2 days. However, if you do have the Gold Edition, you're playing it right now. And Assassin's Creed Odyssey is building upon Assassin's Creed Origins, and I do have to say, there is a considerable amount of improvements made on Odyssey from Origins, not only in the gameplay standpoint, because that is obviously evident. You can see it in the story, but you can also see it in the presentation. This game looks incredible from a visual standpoint, and now that naval combat has become more of a sticking point, that really accentuates some of the aspects of AC Odyssey as well, where that wasn't accentuated in AC Origins. The art direction is there, the visual fidelity is there. AC Odyssey is not only very good from a gameplay standpoint, but graphically you have to give it credit too.
We went to visit something that we really wanted to concentrate on recreating in the world. Greece is made out of 85% of mountains.
Next up, another franchise that has been synonymous with its visual excellence, just like Far Cry, is Tomb Raider, and Shadow of the Tomb Raider was once again a very good looking game. I also have to give Shadow of the Tomb Raider some bonus points opposed to Rise of the Tomb Raider and the original Tomb Raider, because with each Tomb Raider game, it is becoming bigger and bigger, and you see that with Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Now, I do have to say, not everything was better with SOTR. Some of the story elements left me wanting a little bit more, but the fundamentals of Tomb Raider are still definitely there, and from a visual standpoint, it looks great. One of those games that having a Pro definitely comes in handy, so if you do have a PS4 Pro, if you don't pick it up right away, Shadow of the Tomb Raider is a game down the line, maybe on sale, you should check out. And lastly, I want to give a little bit of an off-the-wall mention because of its brilliant art direction, and that is Dragon Quest XI Echoes of an Elusive Age. Now, unlike Final Fantasy XV, another Square Enix property, which was a game that was heralded for its visual achievements well before release, Dragon Quest XI was a game that kind of wasn't being promoted much. Not a lot of people were taking notice to the great visuals. However, when you actually see this game in action, when you actually see the fluid motions and the great art direction, this is a game from a technical standpoint. Maybe it's not at the level of a God of War or a Marvel Spider-Man, but the art direction, color choice, and all of the little choices really accentuate all of the positives of Dragon Quest XI, and that's what you want. This is going to be a game that 10 years down the line, I feel like gamers will still be able to go back to because the art direction was on point. I talk about art direction often, and that's why a game like Bastion still holds up so well in 2018, because that game's art direction was on point. Maybe from a traditional technical standpoint, it's not absolutely breathtaking, but those little choices Square Enix made with the game gave it that extra push, and I thought it deserved a mention because of its brilliant art direction. So that is gonna conclude this video. In my opinion, those are the 10 best looking PlayStation 4 games of 2018 so far. Let me know what you think. There have been a lot of graphically great games in 2018 so far, and best of all, with all of these games, they're very good games as well. I could easily recommend you these games, not only from a graphical standpoint, because at the end of the day, graphics do matter, but they aren't everything, but all of these games feature excellence in other categories as well. That's gonna conclude this video. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.